There's lots and lots of cases of very specifics, but I think in general, I think we're seeing an awful lot of uptake of residuals and using more complicated mixtures with different modes of action, effective modes of action. And I know this year was a really great year. The residuals this year, anything that was put on in the spring or even those really, really late fall ones, they worked really, really, really well this year. So I think it was a really good year to see how effective a good residual product can be to give you that longer term weed control and to set you up for better weed control using your in-crop products. So I think that we did see a lot of success there. We've had years before where it's been very dry or just some of these products have not worked as well as we wanted them to. And there would have been nothing we could have done about that. So I think this was a very good year to see the power of a residual herbicide and how well it can work and where they can fit and fit really well in our cropping systems.
And those residuals did set up the in-crop really nicely. So something we did see this year, I felt, is a lot more people paying attention, trying to improve their application of herbicides. Increasing water volume was a common one, especially out in the Southwest. And that was just really positive to see. I think, though we're trying to focus on the positives, the downside this year is the products worked really great, but Mother Nature just kept doling out those timely rains, which created weed flushes. But this led to another positive. I did see a lot more people taking out the mowers and managing weeds with more than just herbicides. So overall, I would say it was really great that way.
I think we've come off a few years where maybe some drier times and where we haven't had as much weed growth. And I think this was a year that we saw lots of weed growth. And I think lots of pigweeds and just even regular pigweeds like good old red root pigweed and tumble pigweed and some of those powels and some of those other pigweeds. I think it was a big year for that because of the flushing weeds. And those just kept coming all season. We saw a lot of foxtails just kept flushing as well, green and yellow foxtail. And I think that we saw a lot more weeds this year than we have maybe in past years. I think we did have a very good year for weed control, but there was an awful lot of weeds out there. So I think it's kind of a bit of a wake up, there's a lot out here to be dealing with. I think the variety. I think because we just had some really good growing conditions too for a lot of different weeds, and so I think you realize there could be some real wrecks on your hand if you're not in front of it, doing a good job and getting ahead of it. Yeah, I don't know. You see lots of different ones.
I think the wild oat was an interesting one this year. It was almost like a slap in the face because it was something that I feel like people have been incorporating different ways to help manage it. And this year, despite all those efforts, wild oat was just I'm
back.
here.
I'm still here. I'm still here.
I definitely agree with you with the other pig bees. I mean, we talk about water hemp and kochia a lot because those are top of mind, but yeah, the other pigweeds and the foxtails, I think are big ones. Tammy had mentioned barnyard grass. That's a big one. Mm-hmm. And then I think just to make things complicated is sometimes those weeds that aren't resistant but tolerate herbicides, like lamb's quarters is a big one. Yeah. Round leaf mallow was another big one this year. They just survived herbicide applications or they flushed after. And I think it's important to look at those ones too. I mean, can't always rule out resistance. So it's just good to take a look in the field and try to determine what the root cause was.
I don't know if we actually have any statistics on that. I think that we see different weeds moving into other areas, and something like kochia, which I grew up in the Southwest, and I remember kochia from when I was a small child. But for some places in Manitoba, it's still a relatively new weed. Unfortunately, when it's showing up, it's resistant. So the resistance, when it does show up, it hasn't adapted slowly to becoming resistant in those areas. It is showing up and it's already glyphosate resistant. So there's things like that. There's that. The water hemp does seem to be much more Red River Valley and north of Winnipeg into that eastern interlake, but it is moving slowly out and away from those areas. But I just think in general, resistance is just increasing on all fronts. Either it's a new weed or the resistance to more groups in that weed, or both.
That is a really good question. Actually, I don't think I've been asked that before. I would say I definitely can see differences in different places of the province. And I agree it's hard to pinpoint one thing for a certain area, but you're right. Like wild oats in Swan, for example, I think they're often challenged by what they can grow in that area. So they might have limited options. For example, places where the soil type might dictate more tillage, you see different weeds. And then this one I see in my role particularly is it does trend as you head west. There tends to be lower water volume herbicide applications. And it does seem that we do see, this is totally anecdotal, but you do tend to see more resistance popping up there, which is probably linked to suboptimal herbicide applications. So that is one too.
Yeah. Well, and all of us in the industry have been talking about spray water, like about spraying better in general. And I know it's water quantity, it's water quality, it's the right droplet size, it's so many things, but making every drop count.
I like
because we have less and less.
Other people's sayings and make every drop count is one I've stolen from you. I like to give people credit when I steal.
Oh, it's fine. It doesn't, but I just keep thinking of the old Sanka commercials, good to the last drop, right? And anyways, but nobody remembers Sanka coffee. You have to be a certain age to remember Sanka coffee. Anyways, but yeah.
Snorted there.
But,
sorry, cut that out.
Because we're still using the same products that we've used like 80 years for 2,4-D. There hasn't been a new herbicide group in 40 years. So we are using the same products. Some people in the audience have never seen a new product group. We've seen new actives within those groups, but it's not new. And so we have to do everything we can to make them last as long as we can. And we know eventually we will get full-blown resistance. But in the meantime, if you can make it work as best as possible, especially when we're talking contact herbicides. I mean, we're heavily reliant on Liberty in this province. We're heavily reliant on our Group 6 products as well, and those are contact herbicides. And coverage is everything when it comes to a contact herbicide. So we've got to and I think that we are seeing farmers doing a better job of that. I think in general, I think there's a more awareness of it because I think we're all working on that. It's not selling a particular product, it's just making sure whatever product we're selling is working well.
It's definitely been an easier conversation. Like I say, I still count that in the successes.
Mm-hmm.